Today we've got a real roller coaster of a tale for you as we explore why the iconic Chevy Chase is considered one of Hollywood's most controversial figures. Chevy Chase, celebrated as the inaugural breakout sensation on Saturday Night Live and a prominent figure in 1980s Hollywood, finds himself in a less favourable light these days due to a string of controversies. While the actor, who turned 80 recently, is renowned for his comedic brilliance in films like Caddyshack, Three Amigos and the National Lampoon Vacation and Fletch franchises, his off-screen persona has often left a sour taste in the mouths of those in the entertainment industry. Throughout his extensive 5-decade career, Chevy Chase has courted controversy and conflict. The star of foul play has engaged in several notorious feuds with co-stars and colleagues, some of which escalated into physical altercations. His struggles with substance abuse, alleged racist comments on set, and inappropriate remarks directed at female colleagues have further marred his reputation, labelling him as a toxic individual. These unsavoury incidents have taken a toll on Chevy's career, causing him to be perceived as difficult to work with. This led to his dismissal from the TV sitcom Community and even resulted in his banishment from hosting SNL, the very show that launched his illustrious career. Chevy's breakthrough moment arrived in 1975, when he joined the original cast of Saturday Night Live. Sharing the stage with notable talents like Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, SNL quickly became a massive hit, and it was evident that Chevy was a standout star. Movie offers started pouring in, but after just a year, he unexpectedly departed from the show midway through its second season. In 1978, he returned to the show as a guest host, but quickly came to blows with the man hired to replace him, Bill Murray. In the infamous fight, Chevy allegedly said Bill's face was so filled with pockmarks that it looked like the ideal landing spot for Neil Armstrong, while Bill poked fun at Chevy's sex life with his then-wife Jacqueline Carlin. The heated altercation escalated until the pair had to be pulled apart by John Belushi. Recalling the fight in a 2010 interview, Chevy said, "Bill Murray and I came to fisticuffs, but we never really ended up hitting each other. We tried, but Belushi got in the middle and we both ended up hitting John. And if anybody deserved to be slapped in the forehead, it was John, for instigating it all." Surprisingly, the actors eventually reconciled while working on the 1980 comedy Caddyshack. However, this was just the beginning of Chevy's complex relationships with his SNL co-stars. During another return to the SNL stage in 1985, Chevy lashed out at Robert Downey Jr., taking aim at the actor's late father, reportedly saying, "Didn't your father used to be a successful director? Whatever happened to him? Boy, he sure died, you know. He sure went to hell." Terry Sweeney, SNL's first openly gay performer, also claimed Chevy suggested he perform a sketch about AIDS the same year. In the book Live from New York, the complete, uncensored history of Saturday Night Live as told by its stars, writers and guests, Terry said Chevy told him about the idea, saying, "I've got an idea for a sketch for you. How about we say you have AIDS and we weigh you every week?" In the same book, fellow SNL legend Will Ferrell said Chevy was the worst host the show had ever had, as he claimed he'd made lewd comments to female staff. He explained, "The worst host was Chevy Chase. I don't know if he was on something, but he was just kind of going around the room and systematically riffing. First it was on the guys, playfully making fun, until, when he got to one of our female writers, he made some reference like, 'Maybe you can give me a hand job later.' In hindsight, I wish we'd all gotten up and walked out of the room." Chevy returned to SNL a number of times, but in 1997 he was banned from hosting ever again, after he allegedly harassed female writers and slapped the back of cast member Sherry O'Terry's head. The comedian's long-running problems with SNL continued when, in a 2018 interview, Chevy hit out at the show's current sketches, saying, "I had to watch a little of it. I just couldn't effing believe it. That means a whole generation of shitheads laughs at the worst effing humour in the world. You know what I mean?" SNL host Pete Davidson hit back at Chevy's remarks and accused him of being racist. He said on the Howard Stern show, "He's an effing douchebag. Effing Chevy Chase. I hate that dude. He's just a genuinely bad racist person and I don't like him. He added, what has he done since 83? Nothing. He had a really big career, but then it stopped because everybody realised he's a jerk. During Chevy's tenure on SNL, personal troubles began to surface when a back injury he sustained on the show led to an unfortunate addiction to painkillers. In a candid conversation on Bill Maher's podcast, Chevy openly admitted to having kept cocaine on the SNL set. He recounted an incident involving John Belushi, who tragically succumbed to a drug overdose in 1983. Chevy said, back then the big drug was cocaine. Obviously, John turned out to be a cokehead. And I had a little jar of cocaine with a little spoon that hung from it. I had it on the piano on the stage. So I was just playing the piano, the crowd isn't in yet, and I'm just sitting there. After I played just a little bit, it's gone. I had no idea how. Obviously, I was looking at my hands at the moment that John swooped in and took it. So I immediately said, Belushi, did you take my coke? A month later, Chevy discovered the vial empty and washed at John's house. In 1986, facing his own escalating struggle with painkiller addiction, Chevy took the courageous step of admitting himself to the Betty Ford Drug Rehabilitation Centre. Reflecting on John's tragic fate, Chevy remarked, I'm so glad I just put that stuff aside. In 2016, the National Lampoon star sought rehabilitation once more, this time checking into the Hazelden Addiction Treatment Centre in Minnesota to confront an alcohol problem. By 2018, he said that he had achieved sobriety and was prepared to return to work. Chevy enjoyed immense success throughout the 1970s and 80s, but the subsequent 2 decades marked a decline in his career. His resurgence finally arrived in 2009 when he secured a role on the sitcom Community. In Community, Chevy took on the character of Pierce Hawthorne, a wealthy, ignorant, rude and abrasive older man. Ironically, it appeared that Chevy's on-set demeanour mirrored his character, perpetuating his reputation as a challenging colleague. Tensions boiled over as the actor clashed with head writer and showrunner Dan Harmon over the creative direction of his character. This feud culminated in a dramatic exit on the final day of filming the show's 3rd season. Adding fuel to the fire, Chevy left a scathing voicemail that later surfaced, wherein he harshly criticised the series, referring to it as a mediocre sitcom and claiming it lacked humour. Dan wasn't the sole colleague at Community who had grievances with Chevy. In a controversial incident back in 2013, co-star Joel McHale accused him of using a racial slur while on set. Joel shared this revelation during an interview on Howard Stern's radio show. Shockingly, Chevy claimed he had received special permission from the late comedian Richard Pryor to use the offensive term. The allegations of racially insensitive remarks didn't stop there. Both Dan Harmon and Donald Glover, who portrayed Troy Barnes on Community before embarking on his music career as Childish Gambino, accused Chevy of trying to disrupt Donald's scenes and making racially insensitive comments. In a 2018 interview, they recounted an instance where Chevy allegedly told Donald, "People think you're funnier because you're black." Dan Harmon believed that Chevy's actions stemmed from jealousy over Donald's exceptional talent. He explained, Chevy was the first to realise how immensely gifted Donald was, and the way he expressed his jealousy was to try and throw Donald off. I remember apologising to Donald after a particularly rough night of Chevy's non-PC verbiage, and Donald said, "I don't even worry about it." Chevy was eventually fired from the sitcom after allegedly using a racial slur on set. Despite his reputation, Chevy remains unapologetic and claims he doesn't care what other people think of him. In an interview last year, he was asked whether accusations of him being a jerk were merely unfounded cheap shots. He replied, "I guess you'd have to ask them. I don't give a crap. I am who I am, and I like who I am. I don't care, and it's part of me that I don't care. And I've thought about that a lot, and I don't know what to tell you, man. I just don't care." He also recently addressed his time on Community, claiming he forgot about being on the sitcom and doubled down on his claims it wasn't funny. I honestly felt the show wasn't funny enough for me. Ultimately, I felt a little bit constrained. Everybody had their bits, and I thought they were all good. It just wasn't hard-hitting enough for me," he said. And there you have it, the whirlwind journey of Chevy Chase's life and career, filled with ups and downs and controversies galore. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, bye for now.